Well, it is another episode of Movie Face Off. And as we all know, Infinity War is coming up, so I should probably do something that relates to that. Avengers Infinity War is basically a big team up for a bunch of superheroes. A team up, another name for team up is crossover. Crossover is basically two characters or two franchises. There's a crossover between Freddy and Jason, but having one film in the movie Face Off won't work, so I guess I do the remakes. So that's how I got here. But yes, after the film Freddy vs. Jason, neither franchise was dead. Well, I guess technically they both are kind of dead because Jason died as a kid but came back as a fully formed adult, and Freddy Krueger was burned alive but then became a dream demon. Anyway, after Freddy vs. Jason, both films got a remake. The Friday the 13th film in 2009 and the Elm Street remake in 2010. Now it's time to take a look to see which one is actually the good one, or, I guess in this case, a little less bad. So, we've got 5 rounds of this. Let's do it. Round 1, story. So for remakes, it's probably what you would expect. That was a weird way of saying it. Let me start over again. For the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, it's basically what you thought you'd get. It's about a man named Freddy Krueger who was burned alive back when he was an adult, and now he comes back as a dream demon to attack the kids of the parents that killed him. Of course, there are some differences, mainly focusing on a couple of different kids. Like there's a boy that helps Nancy Thompson actually throughout the film. There's a little bit more emphasis on the darker part than rather on the lighter parts, but it's more or less what you thought you'd expect. A remake but doing things in a different way, and according to fans, they did it in a bad way. Now, the Friday the 13th story is actually where things get interesting. For those of you who don't know, the original Friday the 13th film did not have Jason as the killer. It was actually his mom, Pamela Voorhees. Of course, a Jason corpse came up at the end for a brief 5-second appearance in a, I guess, dream sequence. Odd how dreams come into both of these franchises. But, yeah, he wasn't the killer in the original film, so how do you make a remake out of that? Well, at the very beginning, there's a black and white flashback to Pamela Voorhees being killed after trying to kill a bunch of other new camp counselors, but the main story is actually focused on the present day and Jason actually doing the killing. Which, to be fair, is a little conflicting. I mean, the Friday the 13th series was originally supposed to be more of an anthology series. But over time, the focus has been on Jason Voorhees. So, that's a little interesting. So I guess fans have come to love Jason Voorhees, and so they expect to see Jason in a Friday the 13th film. So, I think that's actually a smart move. Either way, I'm giving this round to Friday the 13th. I mean, it did something a little unexpected, and it actually kind of turned out to be a little bit better than not good. So, round 1 goes to Friday the 13th remake. Now let's go on to round 2, the human targets. Or as I like to call them, human characters. For Friday the 13th, the only person I remember is the character played by Jared Padalecki. And even then, I only remember the actor's name, not the actual character's name. And yes, Jared Padalecki, one of the main stars of the show Supernatural, is in this movie. Which explains his obsession with serial killers in the show makes a lot more sense. Now, the characters of Nightmare on Elm Street aren't really that much well developed either. However, I do remember a couple of them. I mean, there's Nancy Thompson, of course. And even though I don't remember the guy's name, there was that one swimmer guy who actually helped Nancy Thompson throughout the majority of the film, even helping her a little bit during the climax. And so it's because of this remembrance of these human characters that I'm going to give this round to the Elm Street remake. So let's now get on to round 3, which would be special effects. Obviously, neither film really uses that much special effects. However, Elm Street, since it is based on a character that can enter and kill you through your dreams, there's going to be a little more reliance on the making things seem different and such. As for Friday the 13th, the majority of the effects are basically on either making Jason Voorhees look deformed or just how people are killed. And I gotta admit, there are a couple of, that's not bad, kills on screen in Friday the 13th remake. As for the Elm Street kills, it's, I guess, kind of in the same category, but again, it's more focused on bringing like this, I guess, dream world more to the screen, establishing the mood. And it definitely went for that more darker approach, sort of like the original Elm Street movie. And so I'm going to have to give this one to the Elm Street remake, so 2-1. And let's move on to round 4, franchise mythology. This is, sorry, there's just a whole bunch of snow that just like went straight past my window right there. Got a little jump scare. Damn it. Anyway, mythology. So how does a remake approach the mythology of a franchise? How does it honor it, yet still kind of do something with the mythology to help make the film stand out a little more? Well, with Elm Street, the origin of Freddy Krueger is pretty much exactly the same, but there's also this sort of heavy implication that he, in addition to being a slasher, he was also, back when he was human, a child molester? I mean, in the original Elm Street film, Wes Craven did want Freddy Krueger to also be a child molester, but then due to a string of incidents that happened in California, he decided that would not go over well with audiences, so he just made him child killer. However, there was always a little bit of an implication that that was also part of his repertoire. However, there's a much more heavier implication of that part of Freddy Krueger in this film. So it kind of brings that part of the mythology a little bit more closer to the forefront, which does make it a much more darker entry in the franchise. And while that may not go over well with people, we had a power glove promoting film. I think we can go back to the darker stuff. As with the Friday movie, the mythology, like I said, had to be altered a little bit. I mean, there was still a panel of Voorhees that actually went on a killing spree, but that was shown in flashback at the very beginning of the film. So the first entry in, so this makes it really a more Jason-focused film than the original Friday the 13th film. But of course, it still keeps true to pretty much the rest of it, with Jason being always having this deep love for his mother, including like a little bit of a shrine. And he's a little bit quicker to put on the hockey mask, which, to be fair, I don't want to see him wearing a potato sack over his head through the entire film. So, it's a little hard to decide which one actually did the whole mythology part of their franchises by treating them with the most respect possible. However, with the execution of how they did like that whole Freddy Krueger stuff, actually, that reminds me. In the Elm Street remake, there was a short little bit of time where the kids actually thought Freddy Krueger was innocent and that he was getting revenge on the parents for killing him because he was innocent, which was a strange twist that did not actually be followed through because they just went back to him being guilty, because of course he was. So that was a confusing part of the film. So it's because of that I'm going to give this round to Friday the 13th. So 2-2 tie. Let's get down to the category that you probably all knew was going to be in this video. the slashers themselves. Now, there is no question that when it came to the original versions of these slashers, I did prefer Freddy Krueger over Jason Voorhees, but that was because Freddy Krueger was played by a person that was allowed to actually speak and have dialogue, and he was very entertaining despite him being, a slasher. And while Jason certainly was entertaining in the original films, he had no dialogue, so he had to be relied on like actions and just weird movements and such. Now let's get to the remake. So the remake of Elm Street had Freddy be more and more focused on the twisted nature of the character, with not really that much focus on the one-liners and such. And while that was a respectable choice, it was clear that fans of the franchise want the wit, the humor of Freddy Krueger to be in the film, which there really wasn't a lot of. Barely any at all. Now with Friday the 13th, again, it's a little hard to judge this because Jason is the masked silent killer, so it had to be relies on movements, actions, and decisions. I still remember one scene where he just throws his machete and it just instantly kills someone. I just really like that kill. But he was actually kind of interesting to watch because he was arguably the most fast-paced version of the character. I mean, yeah, we have Jason Voorhees that walks slowly in the other films, who was quick to use a machete or an arrowhead or whatever. But this Jason Voorhees in the remake was a lot more quicker and faster in general, so it was a lot more interesting to watch. Sort of like how Part 6 played with that. So I'm actually going to give this the Friday the 13th remake. Yeah. So, in this battle of the remakes, in this unofficial Freddy vs. Jason 2, Jason comes out on top. And to be honest, the 2009 remake isn't really that bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's really not a lot of films in the Friday franchise that could be considered great. But this one was fairly entertaining, even if it had a lot of standard stuff in it. The Elm Street film, it's not my least. It's not. I don't hate. The Elm Street remake, I would not put down at the very bottom. Like second to last, I would put it. So that's basically this movie Face Off. Sorry it was a little confusing there, but the Jason remake won over the Freddy remake. So comment down below, like, subscribe, share, and Dr. Cinema. See you next time.